with kids trying to. I mean, it's like the whole TikTok debate. Trying to say, okay, we're going to shut down TikTok in the U.S. Or we're going to somehow try to enact regulations to keep kids from accessing porn online, right? And just think, okay, yeah, in theory, that's great. Shit, if you can figure it out, but it's just not going to happen, right? Because no matter what you do, once that kid leaves your house and all that technology is still out there, right? Somebody's circumventing it, right? Somebody's figured out some way. And most of these kids, it's incredible how smart these kids are nowadays.
They're wizards.
Yeah. So,
well, they just banned TikTok in India, which I thought was really fascinating. I'm like, wow, India's more on the ball than America.
Yeah. Well, they may, I forget what their version of TikTok is, but that might be also sort of a nationalistic play. There may be a business element to that as well, where they're looking to drive more of their consumers. It's obviously a massive market. So they may be looking to drive more of their consumers to their version, right? It's like China. China's got its own version.
ByteDance.
Yeah.
What is it called?
And, so I don't know that the Indian government was just being, thoughtful about its, younger folks.
Let's see what it says.
It says they actually banned it in summer of 2020 with 59 other apps originally. And this is what happened after that. I was reading that right now to see if I could get
I thought it was really recent.
Well, no, so this article is from like today or whatever. Just
why India banned TikTok and what the U.S. can learn from it as pressure mounts for Biden to follow suit. Pressure.
Oof.
I haven't seen any of this pressure.
This was so like in 2020 they originally did it.
It says after a geopolitical dispute with China, India banned the app entirely, citing a law that allows the government to block websites and apps in the interest of the country's sovereignty and integrity.
All right.
Yeah.
It didn't stop the like short form video content. It just the content was just going elsewhere.
It just moved. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it goes to Snapchat, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, which would be fine. But at least, Instagram is controlled by Meta, which is a United States company, and, so is YouTube. Yeah, the creepy thing is the data, and their policy.
Right.
When you agree to sign up for TikTok and you read like the use policy, like, whoa.
Which nobody does. You did that. You read that. And it's like, people say, what the fuck? It actually says that. And I'm sure you drove a lot of people to that user agreement. It's probably the first time anybody's ever read a user agreement, right? On all of
I couldn't fucking believe it when I was reading it. I was like, is this, you wait a minute, they have access to other computers that aren't even on TikTok?
They can share with government.
Yeah.
Right. And that is the thing. Look, people say, well, fuck, Google, all sorts of platforms gather all sorts of information unless you opt out. And even when you opt out, there's still accessible information there. So, but the big point here is it's a Chinese state-sponsored entity, right?
Yeah.
And if the government wants something, that company is going to provide it. And the idea that the U.S. reps would say, nah, it's not the case, is just horseshit. There would never be a moment where a Chinese company would refuse to share data with the Chinese regime. It's not going to happen. And so, believe what you want, but if you actually think that there's a firewall there, then, it's incredibly ignorant or naive or both or whatever.
I think most people aren't even aware of the fact that the Chinese government completely controls all business. You really can't have a major corporation without some sort of interaction with the Chinese government.
Yeah, there's a couple of truths there. There's no rule of law really to speak of in China. There's no recourse for companies outside of China that are operating there. And anything you take there, I'll give you an example. It's actually this is very interesting. Well, maybe it's not interesting to everybody, but the end of this past year, so I think it was mid-November or so, the Department of Justice, released some information about it'd been a fairly long-standing case that the FBI had been involved in, and DOJ and others, about a Chinese intelligence officer. Now, the interesting thing about this case was this individual, right, Zhu, Yang Zhengzhu, was the first Chinese intelligence officer to be extradited to the U.S. And the story behind this guy is fascinating. He was a fairly senior. He's like a deputy director within the Ministry of State Security there in China. So a career intelligence officer. And he'd had about 20 years of experience. He started 10 years ago or so targeting specifically U.S. Aviation companies, both on the private and the defense side, and the government. And he went after, as just one example of, and he was now sentenced to 20 years in prison, just at the end of this past year. So, as an example, if you look at what he did, it's a perfect case study of how the Chinese intelligence works to gather up information, right? To steal, economic intelligence. So hold on there. Remember that clip where Marco Rubio reached for his water?
I don't remember that clip. I don't follow CNN or C-SPAN like you follow. You follow like I follow the UFC.
Yeah, that's it.
Remember when he reached for the water?
Remember? Oh, it's fantastic. I know. What are you doing? Oh,
Here he goes.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's much.
And safeguarding human rights. The world is a better place when America is the strongest nation on earth. But we can't remain powerful if we don't have an economy that can afford it. In the short time that I've been here in Washington, nothing has frustrated me more than false choices like the one the president laid out tonight. The choices are just between
I
big
don't trust
government.
you. Whoever told him you should do that, don't do it. First of all, drink out of a goddamn man-sized bottle of water. What's up with that little bitch-ass-sized bottle of water?
It's like somebody took off an airplane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So,
That's
there
from
you go.
a little kid's little kindergarten table.
And that's all that people talked about after this
Of course.
rebuttal.
We're petty.
Yeah.